Where do I even start with The Smashing Machine? The Rock's first ever Oscar campaign, the first film after the Safdie brothers split up, and a potential awards push with Benny's Best Director win at Venice. I'm still here at TIFF. I just saw The Smashing Machine, and I have a lot of thoughts. The best way to describe this movie, and exactly what I said after watching the first trailer, was it's like Iron Claw meets Uncut Gems. Now, I don't think it's nearly as emotional as the Iron Claw or as quickly paced as Uncut Gems, but it finds the perfect middle ground, and I think in that it creates one of the more unique sports dramas that we've ever seen. Going in, I knew nothing about Mark Kerr, did not watch the Smashing Machine documentary, but I was just really interested to see The Rock in this role, and it's also half of some of my favorite directors of all time, with Benny Safdie directing the film. I was really just interested to see how this craftsmanship would form into a film. At the center of all this is obviously Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson, infamous online for pretty much everything. He couldn't save the DC universe, and he's in a live-action Moana that comes out next year, but in between all of that is The Smashing Machine. After the first look came out for this movie, everyone was so interested to see how his performance would be executed with different prosthetics, and the way that he's not necessarily unrecognizable, but you can tell he's doing something different. And aside from Moana live action next year, my stocks in The Rock are very high, because he is absolutely phenomenal in this film. I do think it's one of the best performances of the year. I will say though, I don't think he does any one thing that creates him to be like, oh, this is his Oscar moment, but I do think as a performance overall, and the way that this film is so tailored around Mark Kerr's life experience in these 3 to 4 years that this film takes place in, it just sets up The Rock to have a phenomenal performance, and I think he does. This is career defining. This is a standout. This is all of the adjectives and adverbs you can put towards a great performance, because it is the best of his career. The bar is not high, but it's the best. The Rock is like the definition of a crazy physique, like just in general, wrestling aside, being a general celebrity aside, this guy is just built. And it feels like he got even more built for this movie, if that was even possible. You can genuinely see every single muscle striate as he's walking into the ring. It is absolutely absurd. It just goes to show the work that's been put into this role. And I know a lot of people want to joke about it, and even if you might not like the movie in general, it does feel like there was a certain level of dedication and interest in this project for The Rock to really commit to it, and I'm very excited for the next Benny Safdie film that is apparently also starring The Rock. He's also apparently going to be in the next Scorsese film. Like, I just didn't expect this trajectory. I don't think anyone did, and I really like where this is going, because this showed that he has a lot of potential as like more a quote-unquote serious actor. Next to him is Emily Blunt. I think she's also absolutely amazing. I think her career best performance is still in Oppenheimer, but she just has a little bit more to do here. Going into this film, the reactions out of Venice were saying that her character is more so just like a trophy wife type of thing. She doesn't really have a character arc or anything like that. And I think people were just overreacting. I think her character is actually really interesting. And I think when you have people that are alive that you're making a biopic about, like, sometimes it just turns into a glaze fest, and everyone that's in this film is still alive today, and it didn't really feel like that. It really felt like it was double-sided in the problems within the relationship. Even though these people aren't still together, they showed the highs and the lows. It didn't feel like something that was just pandering to one side of the story, which I really liked, and I think that in turn really elevated Emily Blunt's performance more than it did The Rock's performance, just because she has a lot less like written script material to work with, so the dynamic is really what carries this film. There is one moment that's like kind of a culmination of the relationship aspect of this film, leading us into the big final fight of the film, and I really loved the dynamic. You guys will obviously know when you see the film, but it is genuinely just so well executed to the point where that to me felt like much more of a pinnacle, like winning, understanding life moment than the actual MMA aspect of the final act. What I think Benny Safdie does the most interesting in this film is really subverting the expectation of a sports drama in just the overall storytelling of the film, but also in like the resolution and what actually happens. It's weird to say that because this is a real thing that happened. It's not like a fictional story, but there were at least 100 different ways they could have executed this story differently. And I'm actually really interested to understand why Benny Safdie made this choice, but I also really expect it because, again, it really subverts the genre. Benny Safdie did end up winning Best Director at the Venice Film Festival, and I think that truly does not only boost the odds for The Smashing Machine in general, but I do think it just boosts his odds to be nominated for Best Director at the Oscars themselves. I don't think by any means that this is one of the best films of the year, but I think as a piece of craft, it comes together as one of the better films this year. Like I said before, I never followed Mark Kerr's career. I don't really like UFC, I don't really like MMA, I don't really like contact sports in general, but I do love sports, and I love to win, and I think this movie, if it gets one thing across, it is that losing is a part of life, and you have to lose in order to actually care about your wins. And that's something I feel like just on a personal level I've been grasping with and understanding as I've gotten older. And to see this film and the way that The Rock is able to portray Mark Kerr in these very essential moments in his life, and understanding that though he might have had so much success in his past, the future is what's in front of him, and losses are also present there at times. The fact that the entire film is surrounding the thematic idea of accepting loss, and I think it's because they do it on a non-physical level. Like, it's not about death, it's more so just about losing your life and the passion of whatever's fueling you in life, losing that. And that's so amazing to me. This is going to sound crazy because this is someone's life, obviously, but I do think the film was a little bit predictable in that I think the format and the arc that Benny Safdie chose to tell this film in made the final act of the film not hit as hard. Not necessarily even the whole final act, because again, I like the relationship aspect of it, but in terms of the peaking moments of the sport of MMA and what that meant to Mark Kerr, I think there is a little bit of an emotional disconnect there, at least for me personally, but I think that's just a writing flaw. I think on a character level, this shit still slaps. I think in terms of the composition of the fights, I think they could have chosen a different style, or at least evolved the style of camera work throughout the runtime of the film, but that was just a choice that they made. I didn't really like that. On a writing level, not necessarily thematic, but more so character, I think this reminds me so much of Uncut Gems because of how important personal character dynamics are. In regards to Iron Claw, that's obviously much more based in family, and this is very distant from that, at least this version of Mark Kerr's story, but the way that they're able to make you care so deeply about how much this guy wins and loses, while also spanning a lot of time and a lot of different experiences that this person has gone through. I've never really felt any sports film do that for me other than Iron Claw. It feels so deeply rooted in loss, and I think one of the biggest ways they portray that is through the camera work in this film. The Safdies love to put stuff in the foreground and shoot through it. I think the Iron Claw does that a little bit. Obviously, it's more present in Uncut Gems and Good Time, but the way that the film is captured, less on standstill tripods and gimbals and more so just feeling personal, that does feel like the Iron Claw to me. At the end of the day, I really loved The Smashing Machine. It was one of my most anticipated films going into the back half of this year, and I think it delivers on every aspect that it needs to, though I don't think it's absolutely perfect. It is a phenomenal outing for Benny Safdie's first individually directed film and The Rock's first quote-unquote serious role. Overall, I'm going to give The Smashing Machine an 8.5 out of 10. As always, if you've seen this film, let me know what you thought of it in the comments down below. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you next time. Peace.